Hi,
Guys,
everyone.
we're back for episode, what is this, 5 or 4? I don't even know, of the Good Girl podcast. Guys, I have an amazing person here today. I have Miss Deena Oh, who I have your whole Instagram bio written down. So I just want to go over that. Producer, performer, poet, posture movement specialist, director of Rita House on 3rd, which is where we are right now. And then who is this?
Oh, and this is Bunny.
And then we have Bunny as well, guys.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're inside the studio of Rita House. Rita House is a co-working space and an event space, and then this is our podcast studio. So, but we're just doing it like Bianca style in the podcast studio.
Yes, yeah. Bianca style is iPhone, live, little fuzzy mic, and then there's usually a dog as well.
Oh, good. All right.
This is the 3rd dog on the podcast.
Let me. There we go. Now
Okay.
She's ready.
She's in the nude. Okay, so Deena, are you a good girl?
Oh, I see why you didn't want me to prepare. I have been a good girl, and I have also been a bad girl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's just like the shadow and the light, you know?
Yeah, the yin and the yang.
I think people who pretend to only be good are probably the worst people.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. First of all, is there anything else we should add to your introduction? Is there anything you would love to add? Like,
were there not enough things?
Well, is there anything that like you're also aspiring to? Like, sure, like what's a thing that you're like, ooh, I want that in my bio?
Cute.
Yeah.
Well, when I say producer, people don't know what that is always. And so what that means is that I'm actually producing film.
Oh, nice.
And I am producing theater. And I am a producer personality in that, like, I produce events as well. And when I was a musician, and so I am also a singer.
Okay.
And I am someone who writes songs, and I am fundamentally a musician, although that's not something I do right now. But when I was doing that, I also produced like the songs because I would be telling people what to play and what to, just kind of orchestrating. And then I am a poet. So that is part of who I am as well. And I have been paid to do poetry. There's a lot of peas. Is this mic on?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, a lot of peas.
Yeah, peas are going to be popping.
I work for a company called Ars Poetica, and it is an agency for poets all over the world, but mostly this country. And so I've been hired to show up at events. You might have seen us events where we have a typewriter.
Yes, and I have seen that.
Talk to you, and then we write a poem on the spot, and then we give it to you. And then, like, I've done Google I.O. and Airbnb and different little parties. I wrote a poem for Natalie Portman once. And so, yeah, you give it to them, and they take it home, and it's a memento from the event. And so that has been really cool training in writing. But as far as the future, I want to be like you, Bianca.
Oh,
I want to write a book.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to be here for that book, guys. Do we know like what this book is going to be about?
It'll be a memoir.
A memoir. Okay. Likely. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, honestly, when I told people I was writing a memoir, some people were like, "You're so young," or like, and I'm not that young. I'm going to be 40 this year, but they're
Cheers.
Like, right. Cheers to that. They're turning 40. But people were like, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, I have a lot to talk about. And more has happened since this book has ended.
Yeah.
There's a whole nother book.
I would hope
waiting to be written. I already have probably enough content for half of the book, at least, just by meeting 2 people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
2 people.
2 people have created enough content. Yeah.
You must be really interesting people.
They're no longer in my life, but they were very interesting. That's why it's going to be so good, the book. So how we met really quick. So we met through our mutual friend, Leah. And I don't know if you remember the first time we met was outside. Leah brought you to an art
gallery opening. Yes.
Yeah. And you were there and Bunny was there.
Bunny was there.
And I just remember you being very like outgoing and talkative, and like you which I appreciated. Like you
Okay.
didn't really know anyone. Leah brought you,
I didn't know
and
anyone.
then you were making friends with everyone, which I thought was really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I learned that from my dad.
Oh, really?
He's like the most charming man on the planet. And yeah, I just am intrigued by people.
Yeah.
I find it entertaining to talk to new people.
Which is refreshing because
yeah.
it's not always like that in Los Angeles.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, sometimes I'm not in the mood and I don't want to talk to anyone. And sometimes people want to talk to me and I'm like, leave me alone.
You were in the mood that day.
Well, if I'm going to go out of my house to an art opening, I'll have gotten myself in the mood. Otherwise, I won't go. But you know, if I'm at a grocery store or a coffee or something, and then someone's like, you know, like, just like I'm not a good or a bad girl. I'm not necessarily an introvert or an extrovert. But
I feel that
I can definitely be social, and I enjoy people, and I also need a lot of alone time.
Yeah. I feel that. I live by myself, but my mom comes to visit me a lot.
I met your mom. She's so cool.
So we also spent Thanksgiving together this past year. So it's nice when my mom is in town because I do get lonely, like when it's just me. And sometimes I'm like, should I get a roommate? And then when my mom comes to visit, I'm like, no, I don't think I need a roommate. I think I should just keep living by myself.
Well, it's also your mom, which is really different than a roommate.
Yeah,
but I can't think of anyone that knows you maybe better.
Yeah.
So it can be.
I mean, I like her. She does the dishes and she cooks dinner.
Cool. Yeah.
So she's a good roommate.
She seems spicy too.
Yeah, she's definitely very spicy. She's Puerto Rican. So yeah, we met at that one art gallery event. And so I didn't really know much about you. I didn't know what you were doing. And then over Thanksgiving, I feel like I got to know more about what you were doing a little bit with the movement.
Yeah.
And the posture. So I have so many questions. Okay. So I went to your website and I'm just going to
mindbodygrace.com.
Yes. And the words that stuck out to me because they were in bold.
Good, it worked.
Yes. She bolded these words like in these sentences and it really did work. I was like, more people need to do that. But we're pain, trauma, healing, releasing, unwanted habits. I mean, maybe they all weren't in bold, but those were the ones that I picked up on. And you know what's so funny is that the book that I wrote was actually, I was trying to write a screenplay and the main character's name was Grace.
Oh, beautiful.
And so I thought that was interesting that you chose Mind, Body, Grace. So where does that from?
So I have a theory that, you know, as a person, we're not just like one thing, you know, and a lot of people, when they talk about the mind and the body, it's like this separated thing. And I'm pretty sure that at some point humanity will have a different name for whatever that is, the self that encompasses all three of those things. Some people say mind, body, soul, mind, body, spirit. I think for me, in the context of what I teach, which is grounded in Alexander technique, it is about the unity, and that usually when we are not doing well, it's because there's a separation. It's like we're not in touch with our body, or we've lost our mind, or we've lost touch with our soul. So to me, grace is that something that's like indefinable, like soul, spirit. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And as you were speaking, I noticed my posture.
Yay!
For a second, I was just like, what is different about our elevations right now? And I was like, oh, she's sitting up straight. And
well, I was also looking here and I was like, oh, for them to see us, I have to get a little, because usually in the podcast studio, we're like back here, but we have a different relationship.
Yeah. So, okay.
How do you feel like more in touch with your mind or your body or your soul?
I mean, I feel like I'm probably like 50% in touch with all of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's pretty even.
Yeah.
But all could be more.
Yeah. Or like the integration, I think, is what a lot of people are working on. It's like they focus on their body when they're at the gym, you know, but then they lose touch with it when they're working at the computer. And like the more you can stay aware of like your thinking patterns and how that relates to what people call posture, which I think of less as like a position and more of like a sense of direction, you know, because we can get like down or we can get up, but we don't want to get necessarily stiff or tense. So maybe not just a sense of direction and the relationship between the parts, you know, because if you're pulling, or if you're tensing, or if you're relaxing.
What am I doing right now?
What am I doing right now?
Yeah. Kind of hunched over.
You want an assessment?
I mean, like, do you feel?
You seem honestly totally fine.
Yeah,
It's nothing glaringly obvious.
You're just so straight. You're fine.
But everyone is always like, there's no time in which people have a perfect posture, and there's no time in which people don't have like unevennesses or some sense of tension. I mean, you have to have some tension, otherwise you would just fall apart.
Yeah.
You know? So I think the most important thing is to not get too stuck in any position and to make sure you're able to like, but there's micro movement. Like I can be sitting here and I'm still like moving. Breath is movement.
Yeah. I have to remember.
I think the thing I'm noticing about you the most is that you're not breathing.
I have problems breathing.
Yeah.
I struggle to breathe.
We all do.
Especially like, I think on camera, I think, you know, like auditioning or something like that, like I have to remember to just like function naturally, normally. Because I think sometimes when you're on camera, you get more like, but okay, so going back to these bold words, pain, trauma, healing, releasing unwanted habits. So what led you down the path of this, like exploring these things?
Okay, long story or short.
Let's buckle in, folks.
This is
grab our wines. Let's get comfy. I'm gonna breathe and relax.
So how many of you have ever been in pain? I mean, pain is obviously a part of life. Like to what point are you in pain? To what tolerance? But I at one point in my life was in so much pain with my whole right arm that I stopped being able to use my arm at all. So like I couldn't hold a pen or like turn, you know, a key or like a doorknob, anything like with my right arm. It was just,
why?
Great question. Why? So one thing I've learned from teaching Alexander technique is a lot of times people don't have a very clear why, like unless you're in a car accident or something, specific injury. So many things are essentially what's called repetitive strain injury. It's like a pattern of bad habits over a long period of time, and it sneaks up on you. There wasn't anything like at that time that I could say, oh, wow, I hurt myself. I was just like slowly hurting myself over time. Now, when I look back at pictures after the training I've received, I can see the patterns, you know, and like when I was playing guitar, I was like very much like that. And I really had a lot of the forward neck thing, you know, sticking my neck out there for people, which I do still sometimes have. It's just so different now, the relationship. So everybody wants some dramatic, like why, and it really, I didn't know. So I went through 3 years of just being in pain and trying to figure out why. Because you never really learn any of the skills that you learn when you learn Alexander technique about like your mind-body relationship, about your way you carry yourself, about your habits, about how you literally just sit and stand and how that influences everything. So for 3 years, I did everything I like acupuncture. I still do acupuncture, but I did a lot of PT, a lot of this, a lot of that, a lot of healing, a lot of Rolfing, myofascial, like tons of stuff. And I was still in pain. And then I was just like, went through a huge breakup because it was influencing my relationship. I was irritable as fuck. I was very impatient and it was just getting worse and I was feeling lost. So I went and got the surgery that they said would be helpful, because they said I had thoracic outlet syndrome, which is like not really my diagnosis now, but at the time it was just an umbrella term for like, okay, so everyone find your first rib, and then there's something called the scalene muscle here that attaches, and so your head is like on your neck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's balanced there, and your head, as you probably know, is very heavy. And then your neck is kind of carrying it in a way, you would think. And then you have your spine. So when you have thoracic outlet syndrome, the thoracic area is here. It means that the outlets are like messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Like the syndrome is that there's basically a lot of tension and things are going up against each other. The brachial plexus is here. So I had muscles that were bumping into nerves that are bumping into arteries, causing pain, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
No real reason. So they take your first rib out. That's the solution. It's basically...
Are you missing a rib?
Yes. Yeah. So some people actually have an extra rib that causes thoracic outlet syndrome. I did not. But when they went in and took my rib, which I wanted to keep, by the way, and they wouldn't let me. And I was like, it's my rib.
They don't let you keep your
biohazard.
Oh, okay.
They found that my rib was like this. So my scalene essentially had been so tense, like your muscles, think about it, when you're using them and then when you relax, they like contract and expand. And so it had been so contracted and it's attached to the rib that it pulled the rib up.
Oh my gosh.
Literally out of place. So anyways, had the surgery. Did it help? What do you think?
No.
No, because I didn't change any of the habits that caused the problem in the first place. Now what I had is more problems because I had scar tissue and an addiction to painkillers.
Oh yeah.
So then I found Alexander technique. I started slowly learning, like on a conscious level, what was going on. I didn't understand at first. I was like, okay, I know I'm learning something in this session. It's hands-on, it's very light hands-on, and they guide you, and they're taught to like basically undo their own patterns while they touch you, and you're getting, because with massage, it's like they're putting a lot into you. Like it's like so different than a massage touch. It's a directed touch, but a non-doing touch.
Mm-hmm.
So started learning Alexander technique, started having less pain, windows of pain, and then over the course of 3 to 6 months, I became pain-free.
Oh, wow.
But I was still struggling because obviously I was in a bad way to get to the point that your rib is out of place. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, have the trauma of the surgery. So the other thing that happened when I had the surgery, trauma, is that just like my other surgery where I had a blood clot, I was gaslit by the doctors about like something that actually went wrong. So in the first surgery I had when I had a blood clot, which was very unusual, I was like 21 and like had this random massive blood clot for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor fucked up the surgery and I knew it, and I was like screaming and I was upset, and he was just like being mean and was like a masochist kind of.
Mm-hmm.
My dad barged in, stopped him. They had to redo the entire surgery the next day with a different surgeon because he fucked it up.
And this was on...
That was like it when I was 21. And who knows how that contributed to whatever else is going on. Then this time, they finished the surgery for thoracic outlet syndrome, and I'm like, something's wrong. And I felt like something was wrong. Like the way that my breathing was, I was like, something's wrong. And I kept being like, something's wrong. And they kept acting like I was really dramatic. And even the nurse was being a bitch to me. She thought I was just like a drama queen. And I wouldn't stop though. I was like flagging people down. And then I flagged this intern down, and he was like...
The intern?
Yeah, the intern was the only one to pay attention to me. And he was like, okay, well, I'll do an x-ray. So he did an x-ray, and then he was like, did the wet read, and he was like, you're fine. And I was like, no, something's wrong. Listen, something's wrong. This is not normal. And then like not that long later, for the wet read, I guess, is when it's not dry yet, the x-ray. And then when it dried, I guess, then suddenly these doctors come in, these surgeons, and they're like, do we have consent to do surgery? I'm like, what? And they're like, your lung is collapsing.
Wow.
So they have like my lung when they were in there, and it was like there was like fluid in it, and that's what I was feeling. So then they had to do another surgery to fix that. So anyways, so
how old were you in the surgery?
At that time, I was 26.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah.
I think I'm really bad at time.
Have you always been good about like expressing yourself? Like, hey, there's something wrong.
Advocating?
Yeah. Like,
good question. No.
But you knew, like,
It was like survival. Yeah. I mean, I can be good, and I'd say that an average person who's met me would think like Deena is outgoing and she speaks her mind, but I'm like better at speaking my mind in like a funny way or a fun way, or being like controversial or like a contrarian, or like poking people, speaking my mind or my opinion, but actually advocating for myself, I'm not as good at. Funny enough.
It's like to this day.
Oh, absolutely 100%. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like, basic example. Well, this is not true anymore. I have a husband and he's amazing and I love him, and I don't have to advocate for myself with him, but I've also had people take advantage of me sexually, and I'm not going to blame myself, but it was very hard to advocate for myself. Like, even though I would say no and I'd be like, please don't, I don't want to. It's not like I kicked him in the nuts or something. So I've had people rape me or take advantage of me or coerce me because I haven't been clear enough, or like I know other people who have never been in that position, and it's not, and not that, again, it's not that I'm to blame, because men are intelligent and sensitive enough to be able to pull back when they see that you don't want it. There are specific types of people that will actually just keep pushing when they know that you don't want it, and even if you've been pretty clear. But it's not like I was like, I'm out, I'm leaving. Like it's always a weird negotiation. And well, one was my actual boyfriend, so that makes it even more complicated, which is not uncommon.
Yeah, no, I know. I've read a lot. By the way, all of these things that we're talking about are in my book that I wrote. So I feel like it's very synchronous.
That's probably why I feel okay talking to you about it.
Yeah, because
Can you guys hear us okay?
There, yeah. I think.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, everyone, hi. Yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting because, like, part of the reason why it's called Good Girl is like a big part of it is like advocating for yourself, like speaking up, and and sometimes it's hard for women to do that. A lot of women.
I do think so. I think,
especially in the medical sense, and also with your boyfriend, like, No,
I mean, I think it's. I sometimes give myself a pep talk where I say, pretend you're that white guy in the room, like, who's just like, hey, I need this, I need it now. And they're not apologetic. They don't feel like they need to explain it. Anytime I want anything or need anything or something, I'm always like trying to come up with all the I like think I need to explain it so much.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay. Like, just ask for what you need. You don't have to over explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when people are wrong, like when people are in the wrong,
yeah,
that's something that I've been practicing a lot this past year. And it's not because I'm like per se actively trying. I just feel more empowered to seek justice in situations, and it comes out of me and I can't stop it. Like if something happens and I'm like, that is wrong, then it's like I have to say something. And then recently I got fired because I said something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I mean, yeah, but it's like,
do you regret saying something?
No, it just came. I'm like, I have to because this is wrong. And also,
what was it?
It was a company that hired me, and then they told me in the interview that I was going to be making a certain amount of money. And then also another person that trained me said I was going to be making the same amount of money as the person who hired me. And then after 2 weeks of working, I got my paycheck and I saw that I was not making what they said that they were going to pay me. And then they were like, no, we never said that.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that's crazy making.
And then there's more.
That's crazy making.
Yeah. They basically were like, we don't know where you heard that. Maybe we misspoke, but that's not our fault. I mean, it was just like.
Maybe we misspoke.
Yeah. And so many things. And I was so mad because
you put in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but also it's just wrong.
It's just wrong.
And also
because they do that.
Yeah, and they just need to apologize and be like,
how many people don't really say anything.
I know, and that's
but that would be me.
That's what makes me
I
mad.
would be that person. Like when it comes to financial stuff, like I would probably be like, oh, maybe I did mishear them, and like I'll just like in that kind
of. But also, I don't have a job because I said something.
Well, you don't. Yeah, but
that,
I know.
But that's what makes me so mad. I've been in so many different, because this was kind of a startup. I've worked for other startups where it is very like nobody says anything because they just want to be working. And I'm at this point in my life where I have to speak up, and I get fired a lot. I do multiple times.
I get fired a lot. That should be your tagline.
Yeah, that's on my resume. I get fired a lot.
On your resume. So I had to speak up at work one time, a long time ago. I worked at Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. It was actually a place, I went to University of Texas in Austin.
Oh, wait, we talked about this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to St. Edward's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I that was on my list too.
Okay.
So a lot of musicians worked here because it's like the hours are really perfect if you're a musician, and also a lot of musicians like working with kids because you do a lot of music with them, blah, blah, anyways. But you're working with kids with disabilities, which is a vulnerable population. This is a government job because you're working for the Texas school. Like, so it's a state job, I guess. Yeah. So I don't know if you know, but a lot of state jobs, like it's really hard to get fired from those jobs.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So there are some employees that have been there forever, and like their brother and their sister and their aunt and their uncle and everyone like works there, blah, blah, blah. So there's one guy in particular who was, in my view, abusive to the kids. So
oh no,
I witnessed a few things, and I was like, this is disturbing. And like these kids have behavioral problems. So like one of these girls is like, she has serious disabilities, and she has these kind of fits where she like throws her food or throws her feces.
Oh wow.
And like he would be like so mean to her. Like he would be like, you put that down right now and you shut the fuck up. Like stuff like that. And she's like 8. And I was like sitting there like, and he said at one point, he goes, don't look at Deena, she's not your savior. And I was like, I had the fucking chills. So I'd also witnessed neglect where like, it's like this kid's like, putting his head in the toilet, and like that guy was supposed to be watching him. And I'm like, hey, did you see that? And he's like watching the basketball game. You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, I go to my supervisor, who is a woman and is pregnant. And I'm like, hey, I've witnessed some really disturbing things with blankety blank. And she's like, oh, she's like, wow. Well, I'll talk to him. And just the way she received it, I was like, she knows already, and she hasn't said anything. Like for some reason, I don't know if she's scared of him or she's just pregnant and doesn't want to like mess with anything. But I was like, it was weird.
Was this a while ago?
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. Do you think it's changed now, or do you?
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's just like institutions and bureaucracy. Like I think this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And also HR is not your friend.
HR, yeah. So then I decide she's not taking me seriously because I could tell. So I went to the upper person. So I guess I am kind of someone who will but it's about someone else.
Yeah.
Especially. So I'm like, hey, and he was like, that's very disturbing. And he was like, that is utterly wrong. Like, I am going to have to take it. Like, he took me seriously, and I was like, okay. So guess what ended up happening?
You got fired.
I did not get fired, but they did not fire him due to any of what he did to these children, especially this one child in particular. But one of my coworkers overheard him saying, that fucking bitch Deena, she threw me under the bus, I'm gonna fucking stab her.
Okay.
And then he got fired for that.
Wow, he needed to go. He was there for a long time.
Yeah, like 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And everyone like liked him because he went to the bars with them after work, and none of them worked with him. Like I was working with him in the dorm. Like everyone else just knew him at lunch and stuff. So anyways, that's a story of advocating.
Yeah. I mean, it's just scary to think about all the stuff that happens and nobody's doing anything, like, and then you kind of have to go up to the next, like you have to keep pushing, like, and going, and it's a lot of work for you. It's not your job, you know what I mean? It's not really, like, someone else should be making sure, like, you just kind of worked there, and then you had to put yourself out on a limb and keep going, and it's so much work.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I had to like walk around campus like for a while being hated because it's like I'm like the tattletale, like I'm the girl who like sold out someone, you know, a coworker, and we're supposed to be in the trenches together or whatever.
Yeah, no.
And I think if they really saw what I saw, they probably would, but
maybe, but sometimes
or maybe they just rationalize it.
There's a lot of people I've worked with. Like, I feel like even though you say that you struggle advocating, I feel like you are a strong person. And you would say something. I think there's a lot of people I've worked with that I can tell they're good people, but they're kind of quiet. Like, they're not going to say anything.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not that they're not good people. It's just that maybe they really need the
job
girls. And they're not like, they're almost like too good girl in the sense that, like,
don't make waves.
Yeah.
I will say, God bless my mom and may she rest in peace, and I love her to death. But it's also a little bit old fashioned or British. She's not British at all, but she's more old fashioned. She did say, like, don't make waves. Like, don't cause problems at work. Just like leave it alone, you know? And I was like, no fucking way. Like,
not with this.
Yeah. Like, but I think there is a philosophy, and I've made that choice sometimes. Like, I've been like, you know what, I'm just gonna let it go. Like, but not with abuse.
Yeah. I think internally our bodies are like,
or like these people that lied to you.
Yeah, and I wanted to get up higher and talk to someone else, and they wouldn't. It was like,
that probably happened. You know what? That probably happened to them too. I bet you the higher ups told them that they were going to make a certain amount, and then they're not making the amount either. This is usually very systemic. I think. Like, whenever like a manager is being a certain way, that's probably how their manager is to them.
Oh yeah, I worked for a startup like 2 startups ago that the way that the owner was treating everyone, it was just trickling down. I could see just like the negative, toxic energy just going from like one meeting and then spreading out into all these, because we were selling stuff on TikTok and all these little live rooms, and they would have a meeting and then everything would just be affected. Everything would be negative.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, come on. How can you not see this?
Yeah. Wait, are you dating anyone now?
No.
She's single.
She's single. So
that was a big sidestep, but
no.
I want to talk about dating.
Yes, no. This is good because you're my first guest who's married.
Oh yes, I'm married.
You're my first guest who's actually in a relationship with someone.
Wow. Yeah. So I was not for like 10 years. I was pretty damn single. So
yeah. So what was that like?
Dating in LA?
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were meeting them in person on the app? Like, how are you meeting these people?
Well, during COVID, I was definitely on the apps. I was on Raya and Hinge.
What was your experience with Raya?
I mean, I actually went out with a few people from there. And then also it just mostly was kind of dumb. Like, I don't feel like a lot of people in there are really trying to be in something.
Yeah.
But then when you do find the one person who is, like, it might work, but it's also a lot of crickets. Like, I feel like it's not as interactive as like some of the other ones.
A lot of people live in different cities on Raya.
Sure. It's kind of good when you're traveling to meet up, but I feel like it's more of a see and be seen than like really trying to connect. I mean, I did connect with a few people, but in general, there wasn't as much conversations happening.
Yeah.
Like Hinge seemed like that's where everyone was like real trying to be in a relationship, you know?
Yeah.
But I also, and absolutely no offense to being on apps, I know plenty of people who I've met that way and are married and are happy. I know people who met on Tinder and are married and are happy. who knows what your journey is. I had a little bit of like a pride issue of like, whoever I marry, I want to not say we met on an app. And it's just storytelling.
Yeah.
I'm like, we'll have to make something up, you know. But also I got to the point where I didn't feel like it was healthy for me personally. I was not on any apps when I met my husband.
You didn't feel like being on the apps was healthy for you?
For me,
okay.
Because I felt like it was too many choices. There was like too much information. It was too much communication. I was having to keep up with too many conversations. And it was like, it was kind of like I was dating a bunch of people, but and it was hard to meet. And I felt like a lot of people are on there just because they're lonely or they want to talk, but like getting it into the real world is like, I'm like, and then the ones that were really eager to meet in the real world were lame. So I was just like, I'm going to get off for a little bit and see how I do again in the real world. But as you know, I'm outgoing. I can be.
That's good. For dating.
So yeah, but I not to say that people shouldn't be on there. I think it's good to experiment with both.
I will say,
I think it's good to take a break sometimes.
Yeah,
because it can be like addictive in a weird way.
Oh, 100%. It's just like, another.
And then there's another one, and there's another. And there's a different choice, and
I've never met anyone, and I've been on the app since the beginning of time, since Tinder. And I never met anyone that I was in a long-term relationship with off an app. Everyone I dated for 2-3 years was someone I met in person. But then one of my good friends, she got married and had a child.
Yeah, people have totally done it. People have done. I think one thing I've learned is there's not one way. Like anyone who's like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, and don't have sex on the first date, and wait till the third, and wait till for a month. Like then you hear a million stories of people who have totally had sex on the first date and then got married. And
did you have sex with your husband on the first date?
No, we didn't. But I was like in a real slutty phase. I was a bad girl when I met him. Oh yeah, because I was turning 40, and I always thought like I want to get married and I want to have kids. And I've been dating and dating and dating. And at that point, I was just like, fuck it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just not, maybe this isn't what's going to happen.
I feel like I'm in that phase.
Maybe it's not going to happen. And I was just like, I don't give a fuck. I was naughty. Like, yeah, it was bad. Like, it just not, I would not advise the behavior like of like unprotected sex and like meeting someone and go, you know, like just doing whatever the fuck I want, you know?
Yeah.
I'm good though, like no STDs.
I mean I'm so scared about STDs.
You should be. I'm lucky. I mean, I only did that twice, but still, like,
you never know.
Never know. Yeah. Anyways, I was at Jones, which is like across from Formosa, and I was with my cousin. We were drunk and we were hanging out, and then I saw this guy. And he had clocked me, by the way. It sounds like I hit on him, but he had clocked me, he said, when I walked in, and he was like watching me. Okay. But I did go up to him. But it was like in a very playful way, and genuinely on no conscious level did I think that I would ever date this person. I was just being silly and playful. Like, you know how I am. I just like to tease and whatever. So essentially I negged him. I don't know if you know that terminology. Because I didn't realize I was negging him. But I went up to him and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Are you posing for a photo? Like, is someone taking your photo? Because he was like in a 3-piece suit with like a Panama hat, and he like had his whiskey, and he was like perched at the bar, and I was like, are we on a movie set? Like, what are we doing over here? Like,
was he by himself, or what was he doing?
I thought he was by himself, but he was with friends.
Okay.
And then he laughed, and I was like, are you someone taking your picture? Da, da, da. And he goes, always.
Oh.
So he had a sassy response, which was really cute. And then we like talked, and then he introduced me to his friends, and I introduced him to my cousin, and he was with he was at the art of acting school, and he was out with them afterwards, basically. And then we all hung out. And then we had this moment where like, we were just drawn to each other, I guess. But again, in my conscious mind, I was like, I could never date this person for some reason.
Oh, interesting.
It wasn't like my archetype of what I thought. You know, and he's hot. He's French, actually.
Do you have a type?
I don't have a type, but I think generally I was dating older guys that were like, in my mind, like more mature and more successful or something like that. And he's younger than me, pretty significantly. He's 29 and I'm 42.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But if you meet him,
I've met him.
Okay, he's like an old soul. Like, it's not like when we're together, you're like, oh, they look different.
He does not act like a 29-year-old.
No, and I feel like I read young, so it's like it kind of works. But either way, we started looking at each other. At one point, we were just kind of both had the same experience of like, are we going to kiss? And then we just like slowly started going towards each other, and then we were just like that
in the restaurant,
in the middle of the thing. Yeah, it was like really bizarre, and it was just a peck, but it was like. And then he was like, "Let me make sure I have your number." And then, ladies, I have to say, I'm assuming these are mostly ladies.
They're mostly men, but go ahead.
Oh, good. Men, I have to say, or anyone in between or outside of that. It's really nice when someone gets your number and then like really follows up. Like, he was like, I want to make sure like to see you. Like, you know, it was not just like someone getting your number to get your number. You could tell he wanted to see me. He was very intentional about it.
Have you ever asked him about that?
Yes, he said that he's very intentional. Like that's kind of how he is, and also that he was like particularly into me. Like he was like wanted to see where it would go, and he was putting his best foot forward. Like he was like, it's also, he says like, I don't know what's wrong with these American men. He's like, it's like they're dating all the time, or they're like seeing people, but they're not like making choices.
Yeah.
He was like, to him, he's like, I'm either like fucking you, which is like, we're not even dating, we're just like fucking around, or I want to date you, and then it's just you. Like, so after we started dating a little bit, after a month or a little while, maybe a month, he was like, okay, so like, are we dating? And to him, dating is like, you're not
after
dating.
A month?
It was like a month or two, yeah. And after like we had some significant time of like bonding.
Were you like, ready just be with him?
I think that I was. Yeah, I think I was. Well, I was a little surprised because I'm not used to people wanting. I'm used to people being very ambiguous, and I feel like I had become very ambiguous because everyone's like half in an open relationship or half polyamorous or wondering about it or something. And so I had become very, it was almost a self-protection.
You were
like,
just attracting poly people?
Oh yeah. Well, it
like
is
a sign poly.
Yeah, like, which, and you know, and I'm a social butterfly, I'm an open person. But like, he was just like, do you want to do this? Because if so, I'll call off my people and you call off yours, kind of thing. Like, God. You know, and but we had like these really great dates and just like had bonded, but we hadn't had sex yet.
Oh, good.
But we had made out a bunch, and like we just had long conversations. So like, you know, just a lot of good. I don't know. It's like it was just going in that direction. I don't know. So it was like unconscious almost.
When did you know that you were going to marry him?
Once we started being exclusive, I was like, okay, I'm like in a relationship, and it's just so fuzzy. Like, it's like, it was just so fuzzy, and yeah, it was just so tender and like cute, and yeah.
When was the last time you had that?
I really hadn't in so long, I think, and I had dated people, but like, yeah, this kind of tenderness and this kind of type of attention of like the loving, very loving, you know, adoring vibe. I was like, oh. Then we like accidentally said we loved each other one night. Like, it was like, and this is why I love you. Did you say I love you? I love you too, kind of thing. And then I don't know, just kind of, it moved a little fast, to be honest. Because then we were like getting married.
Oh, wow.
But it also was just like, I was like 40. It was going in the right direction. We both were like thinking that. And then he asked like, would you be interested in like getting engaged? And I was like, I've been thinking about it too. He's like, I want to ask you first before I ask you.
Oh, wow.
Because he's like, also, I do think it's kind of lame when someone surprises you.
I've had that happen.
Like, and you're like, whoa, like he's like, is this the next step? You know, and he asked my dad too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And like, he also wanted to know what kind of ring I wanted. And he didn't want to just like, just be like, I want to get married, take this ring. Like, he was like.
Had you been in a lot of long-term relationships?
In high school, I was with Mirza Kursevich for 3 years into college. So that's 3 years. And then my next long relationship was this guy who I don't want to talk about. That was about a year. And then and he was the one who was really bad. And emotionally abusive and whatnot. And then I was not with anyone for a while. And then I think my next like long relationship was Chad A. And anyone that was like 3 years, and we were kind of this power couple in the Austin scene, and we were in two bands together, and we were living together. So that was a serious relationship. And then after that, honestly, no, not really. It was like a lot of like 3 months.
I've never made it over the 3-year mark.
Yeah, I hadn't made it over the 3-year mark. I hadn't made it over the 3-year mark.
I always tell people like by 2 years, you kind of know.
Yeah.
So
I'm also kind of the person that would blow it up. Like if it's not, there's no way that I'm going to stay for way long because I'm going to blow it up.
Like if I'm with someone for 5 years, it's like
it's probably solid.
Yeah, like we need to get married. But
well, Jeremy and I have only been together for now a total of 3 years or so. So we've made over the 3-year mark.
Yeah. But I would say by 2.
It's a very different relationship though than I've ever had, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
It's a marriage.
Married life.
Yeah, it's a marriage. Very different.
Do things change once you're married?
God. Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it feels like through thick and thin, death do us part, sickness and health, like, it definitely feels like way more. Well, because it feels nice for someone to say, I want to be with you forever.
Yeah.
It's different than I love you and this is great and this is going really well. Then like, I will be with you even when it's like horrible. And
it's like those people who are like, everything's going so good. Why do we need to get married?
That's really funny. I could see that.
Like, it's just going to mess it up. Like if someone ever told me that, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. Like,
I mean, listen, if you don't want to get married, you don't want to get married. That's okay. Like, I know people who,
but
that's not something they want. But that reasoning makes no sense. That's just someone who doesn't want to get married, which is a choice. I get it. Like, maybe you're not a marriage person.
Do you feel like people nowadays are wanting to get married? Like, do you feel like a lot of people are married or?
I mean, it definitely obviously used to be like you get married.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Like anyone who doesn't is an outlier. And nowadays it's like you cannot get married and it's normal.
Are your girlfriends all married?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all of them are married.
Yeah.
A good amount are. Like some of my friends have kids now. But I have single friends for sure.
All my friends are single.
Yeah.
I have one married friend with a baby
that
lives in LA. My other friends who live outside are married with kids.
Yeah. I mean, I think that before I was married, I think I had even more single friends. Something happens when you get married too.
Yeah.
You like hang out with married people.
I know. I found out the other day that my married friend went out with like some other married girls and like didn't invite me. But I don't really know them. Like they're all married.
Yeah.
And I'm not. But I was just like, oh, she went out with her married friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Well, I get jealous of all my single friends too. So it goes both ways.
I know. I feel like the married ones are always like, let me see your Raya so I can see what's on there.
Yeah.
Just take my phone. Yeah.
So you're on Raya?
Yeah, I go on and off because you have to pay for Raya. So I'm always like, at a certain point, you just start seeing the same people.
It's the same people.
So I take a
It's
break.
the same, probably. Actually, I want to look and see if it's still the same damn people from 3 years ago.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you, because like I'll get back on. I get on like maybe a few times a year for like a month, and it's like, oh yeah, there's that guy still single.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten to the point where I will go out, like I'll match with someone, and then I'll start talking to them, and then like we'll exchange phone numbers, and I'm like, oh my God, I already have this person's number in my phone.
Oh wow,
that's how bad it is.
No, I think like going out, also like coffee shops. I used to meet a lot of people at coffee shops.
Yeah,
having a dog helps.
Yeah, also because your dog is so cute.
Yeah, a lot of people will talk to me because of the dog.
Yeah. My dog is antisocial, so I don't.
What other jokes
Yeah.
do you
Okay.
have?
So, what do you? Oh, okay. Wait. Are you ashamed
You have
of
like
anything?
the perfect
Are you ashamed of anything?
girl handwriting.
Are you ashamed of anything?
Am I ashamed of anything? God. Sure, definitely. I'm not gonna talk about it though.
But you are. Yeah, I've asked people, "Are you ashamed of anything?" and nobody has anything to say about that.
Well, I mean, maybe another time.
No,
maybe not on a live.
But at least you said yes. I do.
Of course, I'm. God, if you don't have any shame, then you're probably not self-reflective enough.
Yeah.
No offense.
My book is also about shame, so we talk a lot about that. What's something you struggle with?
Advocating, like financially. I think like putting myself first in terms of priorities.
What's your relationship to money?
It's not good.
Yeah.
No.
Is that from your parents? Like,
no, not necessarily, but it has not been a priority, and it's not a good idea. I'm ashamed of my debt.
Yeah.
$30,000 of debt.
Oh wow. From school or just life?
See, school would be admirable.
Yeah, I still have student loan debt, and I graduated.
See, but that's
20
admirable.
years ago. That's not admirable.
Yeah, it is.
It's been a long time.
School. It's not just like being done with your credit card. You know.
I mean, I've also done
not planning well. Like,
Yeah.
So there we go.
I know money is a real thing. So I also do stand-up comedy. I joke a lot about money because everyone can relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like not.
Can redact that? I don't want my family to hear about my debt.
Oh,
I don't think they'll watch this.
It's fine. Yeah. Isn't it funny though that we are ashamed about that? Like the stuff that like I'm ashamed about. Like I don't like the other day I was vaping with my friend while I was doing a live, and I was trying to like vape.
You should be ashamed of
I was trying to vape off camera because I was like, what if my mom watches this? I'm ashamed. Anyway, what are you looking for in life right now?
Well, I am very happy, like focusing on marriage, and like you have to put work into like, so yeah, developing that, building our life together, which involves like building our finances better and building that up. Having my voice be heard more. I used to be much more out there, like singing, doing poetry. I've been kind of in hiding, so that would be good. And I'm actually getting surgery for endometriosis and fibroids.
When is that?
April 2nd.
Oh my God, that's soon.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it, even though I'm not. But I've been dealing with so much pain monthly that it's bad. And the thought of not having to have that or to clear that out, and also possibly fertility can help with that. Would be interested in that if possible.
How much time do we have? We have 8 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
What?
No worries. Sorry to text.
What do you worry about the most?
Money.
Money. Yeah. I worry a lot about money.
And identity. Just like how I appear, just like if I'm coming across the right way, if I'm making the right choices, if I'm using my time wisely, and I worry about like the success of whatever I'm involved in. Like I worry about if I'm working for someone, the success of the company or the entity. Like I worry about the world. I worry about Palestine. I worry about our country. I worry about Trump. I worry about, I worry a lot.
Yeah.
I worry about Bunny if she's not pooping properly. I'm a big worrywart. And I used to hate it about my mom. Like, I'm like, Mom, chill out. And now my husband's like, Deena, chill out.
There's a lot to worry about.
There's a lot to worry about. It doesn't help anything.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah. Every time that I'm able to like stop it and then like realize that it did not, the outcome was no better. You know, but it's okay. I mean, you got to stay vigilant.
Yeah.
It's just from trauma. Like,
yeah. Do you feel like money comes and goes?
I have taken a really transformative course with an instructor named Minachi. And I think like in America, like money is bad a little bit. Like it's like, but in other cultures, sometimes like in India, it's like they will like celebrate money in this different way. And I think money comes and goes, yeah, but I've had to like retrain my brain about that. Because and it does. It comes and goes, it flows. You know, it's there's no set thing. And it's a weird abstract concept in a way.
Yeah. But living in LA, it's that money's gotta come.
Yeah, you gotta pay the stupid rent.
Yeah, I know.
And for your $11 fucking cafe latte or your $3 cocktail.
Yeah. What are your goals in life?
Jesus Christ.
In 30 seconds.
I think that being very present is helpful. So it's like I have a goal of when I'm in a space, try and be as present as possible and pick up on everything that's happening like in that moment and just respond, like rather than overly anticipating or trying to control it, like just respond within it, being very present, taking care of my health, and yeah, just like tuning in to building something with my partner. And yeah, I'm obviously not like bro goal oriented. Like, you know how there's a lot of like success, wake up at 6 a.m. and like tick this off your talk and like I don't thrive. And I sometimes I wish I was more disciplined. Like I do have a goal of writing a book and I do have goals. But I think right now, taking those off my plate and thinking like being present, working on my health, working on my marriage, working on making more money for sure, being more financially. I want to be wealthy for sure. I do. I want to be able to give a lot. I want to be able to fund and yeah.
Do you feel like you're having to research like about how to become wealthy? Like, or because you know, like it's.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always researching. I love researching. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you reading any books or like what?
I have read some books.
Yeah.
I think I have to get off the phone.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think I have a rehearsal.
Yes. Okay, guys, we are going to end.
Hi, are you here? Okay, I'll be right out. Okay, see you in a second.
Okay, one last question. When do you feel most alive?
I love that question. Oh gosh, a lot.
Yeah. You feel like a very alive person.
I mean, I love dancing. I haven't been in nature a lot, but like, yeah, like laying in the grass, like looking at the sky. I mean, honestly, I feel like I feel alive all the time. And it's also perhaps because I've like had really bad experiences where I've like gone out of my body or felt detached. I'd say that I'm 100% here. And I feel very alive when I'm having sex.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that when I asked you. There was something about the way you look.
I know. Although I have a little anxiety with that, and sometimes my mind wanders, and I have to bring myself back. And it's beautiful. I love having sex. I also feel alive. Yeah, around people that when you feel seen and heard. it makes you feel very alive. Like connection.
Yeah. I love that. Well,
thank you
so much. This was so much fun.
This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was nice to meet everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you soon.
I will look through these comments in just a little bit. But you guys, thank you so much. And go buy the book. It's on Amazon. Good girl. And I'll see you next week. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Bianca.